Welcome to On the Water and in the Field, Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County's news magazine show. Hi, I'm Kim Barber, your host, and today we are bringing you our show from Greenport Harbor Brewing Company's Peconic location. They opened this facility in 2014 and have already doubled their production from what they do at their original brewery in Greenport. They also host special events and will be opening a restaurant here this fall. Throughout today's show, we'll learn more about Greenport Harbor Brewing Company, talk about some fun collaborative efforts we're working with them on, and of course, bring you some great stories featuring the work of Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County's marine and agricultural programs. So hang on, and here we go. We're here in the tasting room where they are currently pouring Leaf Pile, their autumn ale. They're also bottling this seasonal specialty beer, so get some while it lasts. Thanks, Nick. For now, we are headed up the road to Mattituck to check out an important project that Suffolk County Department of Public Works has worked on to keep our roadways safe and our waterways clean.
As a part of New York State Clean Water, Clean Air Bond Act, Phase 1E, Suffolk County's Department of Public Works received a grant to install what's known as a baysaver, or hydrodynamic separator, and a retention pond at the headwaters of Mattituck Creek. Suffolk County is concerned with stormwater and the effects it has on our local waterways. In an effort to remediate stormwater where Suffolk County roads intersect water bodies, DPW cites an example of a successful project at the Route 48 Mattituck Creek location.
The county selected this location based on the priority water bodies list that's published by the DEC. We were going off of the worst polluted water bodies that crossed a county road, where we were able to determine an opportunity to implement a treatment practice to reduce the pollutant load to that water body. After the project was selected, the county proceeded with a team of engineers, drafters, and contract administrators, and we were required to submit a competitive application to the DEC through the New York State Bond Act for funding consideration. The county won that application and the project was awarded for construction funding. So I worked with a team of draftsmen and contract administrators in preparing the work plan itself, getting the contract executed, doing the design, and making sure that everything that we were progressing was on par with what DEC had expected and had approved.
Mattituck Creek is really important to the residents of the North Fork because it's located on Long Island Sound. And so there's no other harbor, navigable harbor, on Long Island Sound between Port Jefferson and Orient Point. So if there's a storm event or if there's a ship in distress, they can use Mattituck Inlet as a safe harbor. It's designated as a federal anchorage because of its location. And because of that, every year, buoys are set out here by the town to designate an area where any ship can come and dock and at least have that either safe harbor for repairs, for recreation, and or just to get out of a storm event. So it's an important because it's on Long Island Sound. It has big boat marinas, so commercially it's extremely important. And it also has a important commercial fishing and shellfishing fleet that can operate out of here. As the town developed, all the roads were designed to drain the stormwater off the roads to make the roads safe. And of course they were designed to drain the water down into the creeks, into the wetlands. Now Mattituck Creek is no exception. So in the old days, maybe it was a dirt road, so some of the sediment washed into the creek. As more and more lands got developed, there were more inputs, more things falling on the roads, more things put on private property. On rainfall events, they all washed downhill, of course, into the creeks. And so the creeks became impaired because of all the inputs that were washed in from the rainwater. Over the past, I'd say 2 to 3 decades, the town and the county have both done a lot of drainage work to decrease the amount of storm runoff directly into the creeks.
The county installed 2 different types of treatment systems in this area, one of which was a hydrodynamic separator, which is a proprietary device that removes pollutants based on different densities of different materials and hydraulic properties of stormwater flow in pipes and weirs and baffles. In this particular unit, there are 2 manholes. One is a storage manhole in which the pollutants are diverted from the stormwater flow. The main primary manhole is the manhole in which the pollutants are separated from the main stormwater flow. The baysaver, the bay separator, however, is not really good for pathogen removal because it's not contained in that system long enough to have any kind of degradation. So what we did was we had the baysaver units in the treatment train. That's the first treatment system that the stormwater flow experiences. After the stormwater goes into the baysaver unit, the big floatables, the larger suspended solids, they get filtered out, and then that flow from the baysaver goes into the retention pond. It's in a cleaner condition at that point. It provides for easier maintenance for the department to go in and clear the debris from the baysaver treatment unit, which is a standard manhole. Again, we're experienced and have the equipment to do that. The retention pond is after the baysaver treatment, and that's where we target the pathogen treatment and removal, and the nitrogen and the phosphorus removal. It's a larger area, it's a larger unit. It provides greater opportunity for removals of those types of pollutants. So the combination of those two systems, working on the discharges that were going to Mattituck Creek, really had a good impact, we believe, on the water quality of the creek.
So the town itself has done a number at the town-owned road end of water quality improvements, tearing up the end of the pavement, making buffer areas so the road runoff doesn't directly impact the creek. And the town and the DEC and the county work together here on the county road to put in a vegetated wetland that absorbs all that runoff. Instead of being previously, it was piped directly into the creek, because that's how it was designed years ago. We put that vegetated wetland in, it intercepts the flow of water, the bacteria die, so you eliminate the pathogens, and the plants that grow in the vegetated wetland take up the nutrients.
The county has many roadway projects. My division is where I work is we deal with highway improvement projects, and some are multi-million dollar projects. Being that the county is oriented in an east-west fashion, we have a lot of opportunities, especially on our South Shore roadways, to implement stormwater retrofits, especially on Mattituck Highway. That runs across dozens of streams that discharge the Great South Bay. So when we have a capital project that's in existence, we'll look at opportunities that we have for retrofitting. An example is one we just recently completed on Mattituck Highway by the Forge River. That was a great project where we installed a line of leaching basins and a vortex stormwater treatment system. Operates in the same sort of manner as the baysaver, and we were able to implement that as part of the highway improvement project. So the county definitely has an awareness of stormwater issues, and we definitely jump at the opportunity to insert the stormwater retrofitting component to a typical county highway capital project.
Another thing that, Mattituck Creek, if you look at it and you look behind me, it's so beautiful. And so there's a resource there, for, as an economic resource, of course. And then you see the boats. There's a great recreational resource. And it's something that people should enjoy. It's not just to save it and to keep it clean, but save it to keep it clean and to enjoy it. That's what's important.
Suffolk County Department of Public Works is currently active in many other projects across Suffolk County. We'll bring you more information on those projects in upcoming shows. We're here in the bottling room where over 500,000 bottles have been produced in the past 6 months. I particularly like the label art created by Scott Bluedorn based on the creative vision of John Leegee. Many of their designs feature elements of our local maritime heritage, which is something Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program is working hard to preserve. Our Marine Program has been working towards this goal for the past 30 years, and will now introduce you to a gentleman who was there from the beginning, John Scotti.
Well, I guess that interest and passion started with being, was born in Rhode Island, lived on the around Narragansett Bay. We used to spend summers in the beach and on the water and things like along that line. So I guess it started from that experience and that environment, pretty much. And then grew into, I spent the summer working on a lobster boat in Damariscotta, Maine, became interested in that and just evolved from that point. It was a confluence of events and people. It started with New York Sea Grant, which I was a Sea Grant specialist at the time. Basically Sea Grant recognizing that the significance of the fisheries in Suffolk County government, I became quite familiar and somewhat friendly with some people within Suffolk County government. And lastly, Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County. The individual there was Dan Fricke. He was the program extension leader at that time. And frankly, his willingness to embrace and include the concept of a marine program area within Suffolk County was unique. So basically Suffolk County decided, and Cornell Cooperative Extension decided, that they wanted to have their own marine extension program. And that's kind of the evolution of it, really. It was pretty unique, It's just, working with people and with marine interest, providing change, bringing about desired change, helping them, facilitating them with research, with education, with information, and advocacy in many ways to accomplish the change that they desire, whether it has to be with the environment or whether it's commercial fishing interests or aquaculture or whatever. It's basically helping bring about positive desired change. In terms of Cornell Cooperative Extension, it would probably be Bruce Wilkins, who was the head of the New York Sea Grant Extension Program at the time that I was working with New York Sea Grant. And it was one of his visions, and more importantly, willingness to grow the idea of the Sea Grant program and extension work, and allow really the opportunity for me and for Suffolk County to have, in essence, its own extension marine program. And from the point of view of, he actually provided some support funding for that move. That's kind of unique, because most people in most organizations, want to keep their resources within and see, possibly could have seen it as competition, but he didn't. I don't know if there's any one particular thing. I just think, again, it's the unique, I guess the thing I'd pick out is the unique ability that we've been able to engender through our program activities to result in positive results and change. I think that's the one unique thing I would say. We've been able to continue to do that, and obviously issues continue and pop up and change, but our ability to be able to respond is I think somewhat unique, It's right now. It's just seeing where we're at right now and where we've evolved from and continuing to evolve. So to be a small part of that process, to be right from the get-go, the first part of it in a sense, is kind of a humbling thought, in a way.
Thanks, John, for all you've done and continue to do for Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program. We will bring you more on the history of the Marine Program and the people behind the projects in upcoming shows, and continue to feature ways that you could give back to our base. Speaking of which, we have a special announcement we'd like to share about a promotion we are launching in partnership with Greenport Harbor Brewing Company and One Love Beach in Greenport.
In support of our Back to the Bays initiative, Greenport Harbor Brewing Company and One Love Beach have teamed up to present a stand-up paddleboard raffle, with proceeds benefiting Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program's Back to the Bays. We're here with Rich Vanderberg, co-founder of Greenport Harbor Brewing Company.
Our proximity to the oceans and the bays here and who we are, Greenport Harbor, means that
the bays and the waters that surround us and that nurture us and feed us are super important to us. So we believe that we are very connected to the bays, and so therefore we also recognize that the stewardship that we should have for those waters is really important. And anything we can do to help any organization whose mission is to protect those and promote those, we want to be part of that team. So we're really excited to be part of the team in helping back to the base. We, with you guys' help, have partnered with One Love Beach to offer for a raffle a really cool paddleboard. It's actually on display in Peconic at our tasting room, and people can come check it out. It's really a very cool board. You can buy a ticket for $20, a raffle ticket, and you can buy them either here in Peconic tasting room or in the Greenport tasting room of the brewery. I think they're also offered at One Love Beach. And the raffle will be drawn on December 6th, which is the weekend of Celebration. And you don't have to be present in order to win the prize. But it's a really cool way to kind of offer something up that also kind of connects you to the bays. And you can kind of see when you're standing on that paddleboard, moving around, how amazing our bays really are.
Just as our paddleboard raffle collaborators are concerned about water quality and the health of our bays, so are our local vineyards and winemaking community. Cornell Cooperative Extension's Agricultural Stewardship Program works closely with this industry to help it be a sustainable sector of the agricultural community through the use of best management practices to protect groundwater.
Growers in Suffolk County are facing some of the biggest issues that they've ever had to face before. And that is the 21st century challenge of how to grow specialty crops and grow them in a way that is fundamentally sustainable. And it makes it even more complicated because we're growing crops in a maritime climate. We're surrounded by water on all sides, and we're growing many, many different kinds of specialty crops. Another issue that we're dealing with is how to protect our groundwater and surface water from agricultural contaminants, whether it's pesticides or nutrients. And then the third thing is being able to provide a comprehensive pest management program for specialty crop producers. Many times growers in the Midwest or even the far west states are growing commodity crops, and so there's a lot of research that's gone into developing pest and nutrient management programs for commodity crops, but there's a lack of research and programs introduced for specialty crop producers, and that is the primary crops that we grow here on Long Island. So those are three problems that our growers are facing.
Being a really great winemaker entails drilling deep into a specific region and finding out how it ticks, or what makes it tick. And that includes climate, soil, conditions, sunlight, the four seasons, and all of those factors involved make up what we call our terroir. And those are the conditions we work in. We have our own terroir on Long Island. Every place in the world has a specific terroir, and essentially that's the climate and soil and how it affects the flavor of wine.
Across the board, weather stations have been hugely popular with growers for a number of reasons. One is the ability to check in real time what's going on in your vineyard, especially from a remote location. So you can look for temperature, you can look for wind speed, you can look for rainfall. All of these things can impact, during the growing season, can impact your pest management decisions. In winter, when we get down into the single digits, that's a time when we worry about winter injury, and so the stations are very useful in helping to determine if that's a concern or not, because if winter injury occurs, growers have to make adjustments in pruning. So all those things are very important, just the weather data itself. And then the weather data feeds into these disease and insect models that Cornell University and others have put together and that are based in the NIWA system. And these disease and insect models are useful. They're not the final word in pest management, but they are a very important tool that helps growers understand whether they've had a disease infection period or not, or whether what the insect phenology is, and whether they should be concerned, whether they should commence a scouting program. All of these things can be derived based on the weather data provided by the weather station. So they're actually quite valuable.
We have this incredible population for bug-eating bugs, which then, when I do get a population of problematic bugs up here in my canopy, these bug-eating bugs will come up from this meadow and start foraging the heck out of these bugs, and this population will crash. So it's a really beautiful form of natural insect control, and that's something that the weather station can really help us with, because I can know after certain days of heat accumulation, which is called growing degree days, and the weather station tracks that, there's certain bug hatchings happening. So for instance, if it's a very hot year, I bet I'm going to get leafhoppers early. Cornell has really helped a lot with this, because we do have a problem here with grape berry moth, and it's the larvae of the moth that will eat our fruit. And there's, they have a biofix date, which means that it's simply a date that they've chosen according to when something is happening to a plant. So they use a wild grapevine that is blooming. So they kind of take this date and then track the growing degree days, and we know when the first generation of these larvae are going to hatch and start eating our fruit. So the whole region can go in and treat all in the same week for this larvae. So as a region-wide control, we can start controlling this bug that's really giving us a problem out here.
Scouting is basically a systematic walking of the vineyard and looking for insects and diseases. The idea is to catch things early in their cycle, because at that point, if treatment is necessary, it's much easier to control something that's not an epidemic. Kinds of things we scout for are fungal diseases, probably the two most prominent being downy mildew and powdery mildew. Those have the ability to cause tremendous amount of crop loss, to affect quality in a negative way. And in the case of downy mildew, if it gets out of hand, it can defoliate vines. And that not only affects ripening, it also can render the vine a lot more susceptible to winter injury, because the vine loses the ability to assimilate carbohydrates in preparation for winter. So those are the main diseases we look for. On the insect side, there are several very important ones, grape berry moth being the most important, because it not only leads to direct crop loss, but also it provides entry points for fungal organisms.
Before IPM, many growers just kind of prophylactically controlled for insects and diseases without really knowing if they were going to be a problem or not. Part of having a weather station and scouts and integrated pest management means that we have to keep good records. And having a history of information going back for many years in this region gives us a model to go and work with. If we know that certain conditions are coming, we'll know that certain insects and diseases are potentially a threat. And so record keeping has to be a big part of any weather station plan and management plan for that. Also, with our new program here on Long Island, which is Long Island Sustainable Wine Growing, it requires growers to use integrated pest management for their insect and disease control programs. The amount of materials that can be used, the toxicity levels of materials that we are using are much lower and limited, and because of that, and because of the expense, growers have to be very judicious in when they use it and how they use certain insect and disease control measures, because it takes time, it costs a lot of money, and if it's not done at the right time, it's not going to be effective. So all of that is very closely tied to having good, sound weather information that can allow us to then make those proper decisions. So again, these stations are really necessary for us to work with, and extremely important for us to have the ability to make good, sound, educated decisions in the vineyard. And when we do that, we're going to have much better wine to work with. and make much better wine in the bottle at the end of the day.
So I think one of the most important spokes in the wheel maybe is Alice Wise, because she has really risen over the last decade to be someone who is able to very eloquently introduce and discuss sustainable practices in vineyards, and she's really adopted many different practices, sustainable practices that commercial growers like I have, and learn them, understand them, and then take them into her research vineyard and be able to conduct replicated studies with our practices and see what works and what doesn't work, or perhaps how something needs to be tweaked so that it works better. And her enthusiasm in general is really amazing. I mean, untiring enthusiasm. And for me, it's been really great to see a huge evolution take place out here on the North and South Forks.
And what we've been able to achieve through the course of this grant is truly the cutting edge of modern agriculture. And we're being able to demonstrate that it is possible for our growers in specialty crops to be able to grow a sustainable crop in our maritime environment and climate.
We want to thank the efforts of the Agricultural Stewardship Program and the vineyards for helping to keep sustainable agriculture and our Long Island waters as a top priority. We'd also like to thank our hosts, Greenport Harbor Brewing Company, for having us. Be sure to check them out next time you're on the North Fork, either here in Peconic or at their original location in the village of Greenport. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. If you want more information about our projects or our stories, or would like to help out, go to Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County's website at www.ccesuffolk.org or give a call at 631-727-7850.
Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County is a not-for-profit 501c3 educational organization. All contributions are tax deductible. For more information on our programs, or you'd like to get involved, please go to our website at www.cornellmarineprogram.com or www.ccesuffolk.org.